the spiritual bypass.
Non-duality
Yes.
was
Yeah.
getting into, like, you can't go cut to the chase, you have to kind of go through trauma stuff.
Yes.
And then the body has to get over it, like this is all concepts.
Well, and you also have one too, that you have to have a healthy enough ego to, or a healthy sense of self, and then go to, yeah. But who's gonna say you have a healthy sense of self? Sense of self is gonna play God with that. So one day you'll have a healthy sense, and then if you do something and it goes, oops, you're exiled again, then you're back to square zero. Yeah, it's again always reliance, yeah, on the programming. That's the whole point. It's not getting out of it, it's just telling the truth about it. You can't get out of it. The thoughts come before the thought of you, so you're not gonna get out of the thought, because you're a product of it. There was no you before the thought. Yeah, the thought's claimed and it implies a you. That's presupposed to be before that, but it's a magic trick, because time isn't real. So time something that comes after in time can be presupposed to be before, because time isn't real either. So everything can be used to produce an effect, and that is the claiming of something doesn't make it so. The claiming of something and then a belief allows it to seem to be so. Yes, that's our role in the way. This is a participatory movie, so to speak. The movie wants to compel a reaction from the audience, and that furthers the next scene. Yes. So it feeds off it. If you don't, like when they yell out at a crowd, hey, you, there'd be what, yell in response or something. Yeah, well, if there's no response, you see the emperor with no clothes. There's just the yelling, and if there's no response, it's just sort of very awkward, and it's just hanging out, dangling there, and it's obviously easy to see. Yeah. But as soon as you react or respond and yell back, then there's an engagement, yes? And then there's becoming and unbecoming, being in, wanting to get out. All of that stuff gets relevance from the second dance step. The first dance step is saying, oh, there's already been a second dance step, but there hasn't. Yeah. So if you don't buy it, the dance stops. You see the dance, but it doesn't have the weight, or it's like in these Zoom squares, it would be a small little sub-square in the bigger square. And most of the time, you'd be paying attention to the bigger square, and then maybe every once in a while, go back. But if you see it as not you, it'll be less than once in a while. It's the you that attracts you to make that little square big, yes? Because it's all about me. But if you see it's not you, then you just start responding to the big square, or let's say living. And then the little square would be an interpretation of the living. So now you've lost a sufficient enough interest, or there's a loss of interest. You don't lose it. There's been a loss of interest in enlarging the small square. So now it's it was seeming like it was huge, but now it's not seeming like it's huge. And now you see it's an interpretation of something that came before. So there was conscious contact living, and then there's a story about who, why, where, how, yes, all this. And it just fuels itself. This is why it's a weird thing. Not all the time, especially, I can't say this with Zoom, but the question and then an answer and then another question, it's like it sets off a slinky effect. Yeah, where the whole point is, yes, there's a claiming of what's going on. It doesn't mean what's going on has been neutered and changed by the claiming. That's what we do. That's our role, because we're the dreaming. That little statement from the head is not the dreaming. It's an activity. We're the dreaming. So as soon as we swallow it and go, oh yeah, that's interesting, yeah, then there's like, and then you're in this sort of interpretation. Now, following the interpretation for a while, the interpretation itself has a survival mode of its own.
Yeah. So there's a forgetfulness that comes to paying attention to the interpretation. You forget what it's like to be alive. You think it's just, you know, something happens and you wait for the report, and you're living on a time delay and you don't know any better. It just freezes all those other possibilities out. That's why it's good to be open to sort of hearing different messages, so that, you know, your head comes out of the sand like the ostrich. And then there's things, when it's there, there's very limited possibility. When it's up, there's a lot of possibility. It's not like there's no possibility, it's based on us. We're the one that makes things possible. Yeah. So if we're making no possibility possible, yeah, if we pull our head out of that, we make possibility possible. Yeah. This is power. And the power, that myopic view, that's the basis of the interpretation, that this incredible dreaming is really a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. Yeah. It limits the possibility and the power. It doesn't limit the power, it misdirects the power. So you can make tons of shit out of nothing with that. Yeah. Through us, a lot of shit is made out of worrying about next week and then going over last week or 5 years ago. Yes. How could something that isn't so bring about an effect? It's not. It's used to bring about an effect from what's so, us. You know, the only way what's not happening can appear here is if what's happening is entertaining. We're what's happening. Yeah. I mean, if you got down to the nuts and bolts of the living of it, it's that concise. Yeah. You and I give everything all the meaning it has, as they say in the Course, or as Jesus would say, supposedly when he healed someone, it's done according to your belief, bro. You know, it's faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Well, yeah, we're in that process of making mountains out of molehills all day. What's being exhibited there? Faith, isn't it? He was talking about the same force, and we're thinking, oh, there was a faith in the time of Jesus that could just be a mustard and it would move mountains back then. No, that faith is happening now. We're making shit out of nothing. We're not. It's happening through us. Yeah. And all right, so here you see this. There's this incredible possibility, and then it's like let's say a giant wealth of light with being funneled into a very small kaleidoscopic telescope that has the end painted already. You're living only the past. You're not even seeing anything now. You're just reacting to what that your head remembers or thinks, yeah, could have happened. Yeah. So you're in the act of looking, but you're not seeing anything. Yeah. What would happen if you lost interest in that, in being Paul that represents that telescopic view? What happened? I don't know. Find out. What happened with me is, just like they say in Dzogchen, you know, Tibetan Buddhism, the great perfection, like the non-duality of Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about relaxed awareness. That's what it's like. So this would be a focused awareness on this, and especially a focused awareness on thoughts about next week has to be really focused. Yeah, because there's so much evidence it isn't next week. So the awareness has to seemingly forget all the senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, because you're not seeing, hearing, feeling next week. You're seeing, hearing, feeling now. Yeah. So it has a lot of work to do to keep all that away. And then you can just focus. I'm going to get fucked. Like we were watching a thing on TV last night about a kid with autism. And he was talking, it's a pretty good show. And he's talking about how his head works. And it says, all right, sometimes I hear a word and then my head obsesses over it. So it was the word twat. And then he's just saying twat, 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 you know, and he can't stop. Yeah. This is sort of what it's like. Yeah. So here you go. All this energy goes into, I'm going to be destitute next week. You know, you haven't looked at your bank account. You got some nice clothes, Gucci shoes. I'm going to be destitute next week. And then it's producing an effect now. That's faith. That's power. Would you want to have that power? Well, we already had the you know, we've already seen its presentations, haven't we? We've seen something a failed system isn't going to work. Its true value is to show us it's failed. Yeah. So the failed system of selfing can be seen because it's not you. It's not of you. Yeah. It's an activity that you may be really engaged with as what you are, or not so much engaged with. And it's really based on the engagement of whatever we are with that gives it its power. Yeah. So if you lose interest in Paul, you gain interest in others. It's not like you lose interest in Paul and then you have to work hard. No, there's a boomerang effect. Once this is released, then there's the panoramic view. So like in the Dzogchen, they would talk about relaxed awareness. In other words, you know, just like on a day, not like today, but a clear sky day, you lay outside, just look at the sky. Don't be thinking much. Don't be trying to look farther than you're just looking. And in that relaxed awareness, there's a sense of that presence that we are. Yeah. Whenever all that is focused, always looking to behind or ahead and making mountains out of molehills, that relaxed awareness, which is basically synonymous with the presence, because I feel presence is undirected interest and attention. In other words, it's not constantly being focused on shit. It's just there. That to me is presence. Yeah. That which we're using to find presence is the presence. Yeah. If you could see it without a movement to it, because like seeing, I feel seeing is that awareness. And yet we experience the seeing now as a form of looking. We think we're the one that's aware. And then when we're aware, there's a movement of time in there. We're looking for something to move on to something else. Yeah, there's an activity. Yes. So the seeing is disguised right in front of our eyes, and because we call it a form of looking, and that looking has the self before it. So it's self-centeredness. Yeah, but it's not self that's seeing. In that the interpretation is centered on self, but the seeing of all the information that is used to make an interpretation is not coming from self, it's coming from the seeing. The seeing is the light that everything gets revealed in, yeah? So all the natural and unnatural resources the mental state wants to use, it wouldn't find it unless there's light, which is what we are. That awareness is what lights up the shit to be claimed. Seriously, it's like a miner that's blind. It needs the light to go into the cave, to go into the mine, and then start looking for the diamond. You know what I mean? The mother lode. It can't see fucking shit. So the inherent awareness that we are brings things into contact and into light. And then the mental state can claim it. Yeah. It sees something. And it's always verbing, yes, seeing, hearing, feeling, doing, thinking, smelling, and it immediately like almost injects it with like a numbing effect. It puts it like, puts it into a state, like an inert state, and then it starts telling a story about the noun, yes. So you're the seer, the hearer, the feeler, the taster, the toucher, but obviously you'd have to arrive at the seer through the seeing because there's no seer. Yeah, it's self-evident in the morning when I wake up, there's seeing. It's not self-evident there's a seer. Because what's greeting when my eyes open isn't the seer, it's seeing. I'm like, you know what I mean? Everything's on, yeah. And then memory, all right, this is our room, there's Amelia, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, basically, but I always say in a very loving manner, it's not just Amelia. It's I stop and I wonder and I lose myself in the beauty of Amelia. But I'm using it as an example. I'm using it as a beauty of example. And then she feels that awareness focused on her beauty.
Much better.
That's the love. That's the love. Yeah. But as an example of what's happening, yes? Yeah. So the seeing, obviously, what does it mean? I don't know. Maybe if you kept moving the horse from the seeming being behind the cart, one of those times, and it's placed in front of the cart, you realize it's always been that way. But now we're taking it just like this, becoming. We're taking the horses behind the car. So, all right, we'll accept that temporarily in a way. And all right, we'll just keep moving the horse in front of the car. Oh, and but you keep seeing everything as if the horse is behind the car. And then you don't. One time you see it. You see the horses in front of the car. Your head now has been introduced to a new logic. Because your whole logic was the cart is the driving force, not the horse. But fact is, the horse is the driving force, not the cart. Yeah. So the thinking is the driving force, not the thinker. The thinker is the cart. Yeah. The feeling is the driving force, not the feeler. The seeing is the driving force, not the seer. Yeah. So we have it completely backwards. We don't, the way it's presented. Yeah. From what that station we're listening to is truly almost, it's captured in double speak 1984 by Orwell. You know, it's like the peace department was the war department. You know, they're just the exact opposite of what you thought. Yeah, and then the bullshit just keeps coming, and all the while you're hearing it, it just doesn't make fucking sense. But they'll punish you if you fucking say anything about that. Yeah, the system. Well, in a way, this system does the same thing. It's sort of like an authoritarian system. It's sort of like the God of the Old Testament. It doesn't brook any other gods put in front of it. It's going to send you smoke this, fucking smoke that. You're going to get turned into a column of salt and shit like that. Give me your firstborn as a sacrifice. Prove your love to me. Sounds like the head to me. It sounds like the head. Doesn't sound like what I would call God. It sounds like a jealous motherfucking sadist, really. All right, who can I fuck today? All right, Abraham. I know you like your kid. Give me the kid. Well, please give me that kid. And if you don't, I want 2 kids. What? That's God. It sounds like God to me. It sounds like someone. Sounds like certain people I know. So this whole point is pointless very quickly, really, because the horse is in front of the car. Being ourselves reality. Yeah. Being ourselves reality, the greatest mystery is reality, aka Paul, wanting to attain reality, because Paul, aka reality, is reality without aka Paul. It's reality wanting to attain reality. That's the greatest mystery. Why? Being ourselves reality. Yeah. Being ourselves reality. Now, some people will say they can see further the story. Well, there are so many different realities. So there's one reality wanting to attain a high, you know, it goes on and on and on. But it's the basic fundamental building block. Yes. Being ourselves reality is the block of non-duality. That's the touchstone. Yeah. Now, if you're not open to that suggestion, it's not saying you have to believe it. It's saying just entertain what comes after through the talks based on that assumption, being ourselves reality. So then you'll see the statement of Huang Po with a group of Zen students wasn't to those students, it was to the Buddha that they are. When it said you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Yeah. If there was truly Steve and Maoist or whoever, some Chinese names, if there was truly them there, then using the Buddha to seek a Buddha would be a good fucking idea probably. But they are the Buddha, you see? And if you are Paul, maybe nothing else has worked, so maybe attaining reality may work as Paul, because maybe reality will change Paul. But if you are reality, seeking reality is a way of denying reality, yes? As it says in the Course in Miracles, very clearly, okay? Firm in faith in this something else that you've made to be yourself. How do we make it to be ourselves? By faith in it, yeah? By faith in the selfing, we believe the narrative. And to believe the narrative, you have to believe the central aspect of the narrative, which is you're a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. That's it. That's the basis of it. Yeah, that you're the doer, you're the thinker, you're the feeler, you're the taster, you're the toucher. Yes, you were born, and you may die, but what you think is you is going to go to another, transmigration, on and on and on and on. It's going to end. That voice in your head is going to end when the head goes out. Yeah, it's not going to be leaping into the next storyline. It's not an imaginary Paul that's had 80 different lives. There was 80 different lives with imaginary Pauls, maybe. But there was no Paul. There was no Paul had those 80 lives. So these things, if the airport's open and it's the right day and stuff like that, it will land. And that's why I believe in repetition. I do. I don't believe, because when I went through this little rinse cycle and wash and then, dry, it told me there's no point to go anywhere else. If you don't see this activity at the beginning, you're going to be looking from it. Yeah. And you may be on the highest mount of Mount Olympus, there'll still be an identification as you being the one there looking from Mount Olympus. Yeah. Mount Olympus isn't going to change that fact, because it's not a fact. Yeah. Nothing's going to change that, because that process is quicker than any process. Before you climb to the top of Mount Olympus, there'll be a huge story every step of the way that it's you climbing the Mount Olympus. It will be. Now, it's not forbidden zone for the claiming. It's just going to do what it always does, because it's not volitional, it's not mechanical. If there was a volition, there'd have to be something there that could be contrary to that, which there isn't. It's just mechanical. So see it. There's no guilt or shame in it. There's no guilt or shame built into selfing. It's an add-on by being identified as the doing of the self. But you're not the doing of the self. There's just selfing. Yeah, that's what that thing did. It wasn't doing it until a point it started doing it, and then it seemed to never stop doing it. For me, it became apparent around 5, I guess, where a certain discomfort started to arise. And then there was an obsession with this empty space, because I thought there should be a Paul there. Yeah, I saw Peter Kennedy, I saw him, but when I looked inside, I didn't see anything. It was very off-putting, and it scared the shit out of me. So fucking my head got overdeveloped after my father and grandmother died, and there was a great reliance on it. And I got security by replacing the living with an interpretation. I got an interpretation, and then I could affect the interpretation by making myself feel something before the interpretation. So I had a huge drive to get loaded, because when I was on drugs, it gave me a feeling before you gave me a feeling. Yeah. And I felt I was totally outmatched by other people's feelings coming at me. So I better have some armor. And that was just checking out. Yeah. Checking out. I didn't want to be here in a way. Yet, all the while, completely based on that false idea, I thought I was the cart, and I could get off the horse. I didn't realize at all until I did. And then when I did, I've never not realized it. It became a fact in my life, and it hasn't changed. And it's not a fact that's in a closed box in a fortress of a citadel. It's open for testing and review. And I've lived with it wide open for 20, 30 years. And no real strong dispute has ever arisen around it. It became a last answer to me, which is a damn good answer in this place. place, because constantly all our answers turn into more questions, you know, and they don't fucking last. They erode, and there's a lot of maintenance involved with it. You gotta keep, it's like having the blow up doll, which I don't have, but a blow up doll that has holes, and you gotta keep blowing air in, or it doesn't give you the appearance you want to give you, to get you whatever, you know what I mean? So that's why we're here. I'd speak anywhere really, or I won't speak at all. It doesn't matter. I just know where I'm at. I'm convinced of these ideas because, and the convincing came all of a sudden when I saw I can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. It basically was like a spotlight that reviewed like 25 years, like 30 years of life from 6 to something else in a second. It was like one of those printers. It just, and all I saw was a fucking aha, you know, like an unspoken yes from that statement. It seemed like that was the main movement of this life since I was young, was trying to get out of this place. Yeah, as this place, or trying to use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Yes, I didn't realize I am that which I am looking for. Yeah, because I had a misidentification in place. I thought that which was looking for whatever it was looking for was this. And I definitely did not believe this was what I was looking for, because I was hell-bent on escaping it every freaking day since I've been 6 years old by doing something. Yeah, so I needed some corrections. Life gave me plenty of them, and then non-duality brought the final little crescendo. Because first I thought it was a quite novel idea. I was reading a book by Ramesh Balsekar called Who Cares? And it was, I mean, every other page was stopping me, because he would say it in a different way. Then it's sort of like I was listening to music last night from a soundtrack, and the guy changed where a note would usually be. So it was like da 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 da, and then you think a dot, but no, da 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 da, da, yeah. And it's like, yes, it was sort of, it was music, everything, but it wasn't the beat that you're familiar with, yeah. This is what this is like. So that little pause between where you thought the beat was gonna be hit and then it comes later, that's that pause where there's downloading, so to speak. You see something, yeah, because it popped out of the mental logic. It just took a left or right, and you're like, wait a minute. I mean, and I go back and I read it again, and I'd lay there for a while, and I started seeing, Jesus Christ, non-duality is I've only seen it in how non-duality uses the language. It actually expresses a whole different logic, yeah, which is based on being ourselves reality. Nothing else is based on that. Yeah, it's all the shit is, they may say that like in some way, but their whole effort is based on this getting somewhere, or this being the impediment of getting somewhere, and therefore we got to purify this or whatever, and it's just setting off on another fucking journey. And I'd been on some, and I thought they were different flags. I thought, you know, spirituality was completely different than drug use, but after I did both, I saw a lot of similarity between drug use and spirituality. I mean, a lot. And I actually thought drug use was better, was smarter, because at least you'd get a rush. At least you'd get some quick shit. Yeah, there's other stuff to say may take lifetimes. I can imagine if I called my coke dealer, hey, you got an 8 ball, it may take lifetimes. I'd never call the guy again. It may take lifetimes to get it. So no, I think I need it now. So yeah, so again, I hope more than the words, just a feeling of not the mental logic being de-pretzeled, but I've been de-pretzeled in a way. Yeah, hopefully. So that's something that's immediate can shine through. not tagged with, oh, hopefully we can arrive there, or hopefully we're in the act of becoming. No, you know, we are what we're looking for. Yeah, and there's no requirements necessary for what we're looking for to be what we're looking for. It's what's looking. Yeah. There's no requirement. It is what's looking. There's no if, ands, or buts. Everything else is truly based on seemingly so, which needs us as an audience agreeing to what's being presented. Yeah. And usually the agreement is bought because everything that's being presented is like chocolate covered by its being you. And there's a cherishing of self. The mental state has this desire to be something other than what it already is. Yeah. So basically, like that statement in the course, it's not, oh, you know, this firm in faith in being this something else we made to be ourselves, but that activity on the other side of that coin is a denial of what we are. So this is where we are, actually. Yeah. We're in one movement, and that one movement sort of closes the door on the other movement. Now, when you're in this movement, it's totally okay with seeing everything about selfing and all like that and all the claiming. Yeah, it's not in a conflictual relationship to it. It's just is. It's just acceptance, open space. Yeah, I don't think, you know, it's not like it only accepts white clouds and a rain cloud can't come in. It has a much different quality. Being inherently empty, it allows everything to show up. The other thing, being inherently empty, but in denial of that, and taking this something else to be something else, yeah, there's a lot of fucking denying that has to go on to make it seem so. Yeah, it can't withstand standing next to what you already are or standing there. So it has to sort of make a sense of forgetfulness about that to have a remembering of it. Where in the other case, this activity can go on just like it always goes on, but there's not going to be the audience response. Because the audience now is captivated by something else that's always available at all times, right where it is, with no requirement necessary. Yes? So now when it looks at the screen and sees itself, this idea of Paul, in a much larger field than this myopic. Yeah. Yeah. See, because I saw in my own head, not my own head, the head, that self-centeredness sees everything as how it pertains to it. Yeah. It has a very, it's like this is it. Where the other way, when this is empty, this is this and this is this. Yeah. But it's the self-centeredness, it sucks everything in and makes it very myopic and has everything pertain to this. Yeah. Yeah. And you can see it on level different degrees. Hopefully that will show you it, because you can see now with the technology and people constantly taking pictures of themselves. Yeah. It's mimicking the attention and interest going out there, not coming, bringing anything back and just bringing back the same picture of yourself. Instead of everything else that was available, what gets sucked in is this, you know? That's insane. That's completely insane. But all that is mimicking an activity already in place. Yeah. Yeah. This is what the relaxed awareness is more like. You just chill out, and maybe the big star of the day will be a hummingbird. Yeah. You know, it's like you're in like an epic of Cecil B. DeMille, but you're not the star of a B movie. You know, you're an incredible epic, but the other deal is you're going to be the star of this sucky movie. Yeah. Wow. Hopefully you get weaned off of that and you become an extra in that large epic. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't see it can't be brought about. It's already available. That's the thing. Yeah, while we're busy, we're not doing it. When the head's making mountains out of molehills, the same space there has to be to have a molehill, and the same space there has to be to have it made into a mountain is still that same space. We are that space, yeah? So we could have different landscapes going on. Good, just a possibility. We're not gonna bring it about, thank God. Yeah, because we'd be probably on each mountain this fall, you know what I mean? There'll be lots of interest and you know. Yeah. My life without Paul. I would say life without Paul. I like that. Yeah. So yes, all right. Want to ask any questions? Not here, but in the Zoom.
This is a test. Can you guys hear me?
I hope it's been working. That'd be great. It's nice.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Jeez, it was loud.
We'll be able to hear you. We're testing the speaker. You.
Oh, you have a speaker now too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay,
that you
anybody
can
want to
hear
raise
the
their hand?
questions.
Anyone raise a hand? No, 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 no. All right.
Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's Tito from Brazil.
Okay, Paul, all of us have already walked to the pond, looked at the mirror, and we have recognized our lion face, right? Right. So our problem is that we turn around from the pond, start walking, and sometimes in a few minutes or perhaps in an hour, we are back to being the sheep, right? Right, that's our problem. What do you think about the idea that it's out there some places that you should learn to be aware of sensations, learn to be aware of feelings and thoughts? Because if you don't learn to be aware of those things, they will catch you like a thief in the night and suck you into the turmoil. What are your ideas about this notion?
Well, that's what we're offering. We tend mostly to spend time on the activities of the selfing and what it can do if the audience responds to the call, yeah? And we go over it and over and over it. So I think there's already an awareness. There's not, let's say, an understanding. So stuff goes on, and then the same, it's like 2 and 2, and then you get the bill 8. And you're fucking so used to getting 8, you just keep taking it. But now you have an understanding that 2 and 2 is 4. So when you get the receipt called the interpretation, you look at it and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, and then something, yes, there's now an awareness of it through an understanding of the warning, so to speak. Yeah, like if you ever read Trungpa Rinpoche, he had a famous book called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. A lot of people, when I was starting to get involved, there was one of the first books, you know. First it was Be Here Now, autobiography of a yogi, usually, and then Spiritual Materialism came along. And he felt it was so important enough to put it in the first paragraph or the second paragraph. He said, but he used the term ego, which I don't like, but he says, be very clear that whatever the ego comes in contact with, it's going to take advantage of. That's an incredible bit of information if you can understand what it means, yeah? Because now the awareness here in this activity is armed with an understanding, yeah? So it's not only aware of the person going through the border, now the awareness stops the person and asks for their papers, yeah? And then you see, and then the bullshit comes up like self-inquiry, I'm me, and then you ask them, and then the whole false narrative collapses, yes? So now you have an understanding, let's say, of the mechanicalness, because the one big thing is that migrates all the time. When an activity is described, people still believe there's volition concerning it. most times, yeah? So let's get it very clear. Selfing is mechanical, it's not volitional. In other words, you're not doing it, yeah? You're seeing it, you're the seeing of it, you're not the doing of it, yeah? So it's mechanical. And I haven't found there's any claim-free zones. You may have a claim-free zone for a second or two, but as soon as the clock, the mental clock starts ticking and it regroups, it's going to claim the one, it's going to claim to be the one that had the epiphany, you know, or the realization, or the rude awakening, or the enlightenment. Yes, you just got to become aware of that. Yeah, understand it, and now you're aware of that. Yeah, while there's raw awareness seeing it, there's an awareness of the activity that happens through it. Yeah. And I have faith in it. That's more than enough. Once you start recognizing what you're not, it's inevitable that when the ball of life keeps going around the roulette thing, it's going to land on your square and you're going to see things, and the emphasis will be on the seeing, not the thing. And you'll get a free sample of truly the horse in front of the cart. You will. And I think that goes so much farther than almost anything else, is that own intimate glimpse of the fallacy of the mental logic, and then immediately having a sense of the seamless of the empty logic. Yeah, the seamlessness of it. Yeah, and I don't see more free samples don't hurt. Yeah, it's not like you're going to get cavities. More free samples, because you're the product that the samples are of. You're not going to get a product, you are the product. So you get a free sample of what you are, and what you are tastes it, and yeah, so bring it on. So I believe warnings are important, because you know, you could be in a complete dedication to a system that would be one of the most sublime systems of spirituality, and you may never see this movement of claiming whatever's going on to imply there's a you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
hear
no,
it.
yeah.
I didn't get the seeing of that through effort or thought. I got the seeing of it by being offered an understanding, and then entertaining understanding, and then seeing it for myself. Not for myself, but seeing the self from what I am. Yeah. So was given away. That was a very big power thing for me when I realized some guy had said it. And that modus operandi of claiming, he didn't emphasize it, but I thought it was very important to emphasize. Yeah, because because there's belief in peak experience, they should do it. Or, you know what I mean? If the epiphany is longer than a week, it should do it. I mean, it's just because it wasn't long enough, it would have stamped out that. And it doesn't. As long as time goes on and you're appearing as the thing, that thing is going to neuter whatever happened and claim it to be something that happened to it or through it or for it or as it. Yes? So, yeah. Yeah, so that's what I like about writing a new book. What happens after you leave the pool, leave the pond? Because the lion will seemingly take itself to be the sheep, and now the sheep tells all the other sheep it had a great lion experience. I saw the lion in the water. Yeah, but of course that's true, but it had that impact when it was seen as a lion, then much different when it's turned into a story that it was a sheep. Yeah, yeah. All right, I think that's good, Gio.
Okay, thank you.
Any more, Gio?
What's going on here?
You were gonna try to ask something else.
All right. This has to be, it's not all plugged in, this isn't plugged in.
Are you there, Gio? You did. I'm frozen. He's frozen. I'm not sure that.
I think somebody pulled it out.
I'm actually not getting power.
Yeah, somebody pulled it out, I think.
No, I mean,
No, it's not the right.
it's on. Is it on? Yeah, all right.
Okay, we got Jim from Philly.
We had a pause.
Hold on one second, Jim, while we settle.
I wanted to see if anyone noticed I changed my shirt during the pause. Probably put on a whole new outfit.
Maybe we can transfer.
I changed one of the fish. Did you see? It's going the other way now. It's the horse before the cart.
I saw. You ready for Jim, Philly?
Am I ready for Jim? Sure.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim from Philly.
How's it going, Paul?
Hey, how are you?
All
I
right.
can't see you, but yeah.
So basically, like, I'm at the point where it's like, it's kind of like Cool Hand Luke when he's like fighting, what's his name, Dragline. He's just getting his ass kicked. He's like, stay down, stay down. And that's kind of like where it's at this point. But it's like, you know, it won't stop. It won't stop trying to, you know, come back and then use everything it can, you know, like where I wasn't an alcoholic, but it'll use that, you know, all your weak spots, and it'll try to like accentuate it, or, you know, like keep creating fires to get you to, you know, like keep making it alive, you know. So my question is, like, what advice would you have, like, at that point?
Well, maybe you should look into trying to just distract yourself every once in a while by doing service or, you know, volunteering. Yeah, taking walks. Sometimes the best way is to send yourself around the corner for a half an hour. Yeah. Yeah. Because see, it's that which is seeing all those things you just described is never gonna be worn out by all that shit that's happening. It outlasts everything. Yeah, because it didn't come, it's not going. Yeah. Yeah. So like we say in AA, this too shall pass. And it's not a hopeful statement, it's actually a factual statement. Sometimes you feel it as a hopeful thing because you're thinking something you're dwelling on won't pass, and it says this too shall pass, but in actually it's a fact. It's making a statement about what happens here. Everything comes to go. This too is going to pass. Yeah. So it's not like you have to withstand the blow of the hurricane. Just go inside, you know, just take a break, chill out, lose interest in this pursuit or whatever it is, come back. Yeah, it's never gonna go. You don't lose any ground. Yeah, there's no rush. You didn't miss the appointment. It's readily available at all times, right where we are. Yeah, I used to believe, you know, there's only one moment, and if I don't take it, you know, and I remember they brought me to a rehab where they were practicing mindfulness and stuff. And they were sort of each client had their own like person that worked with. And the one girl was sharing about, oh, I was at the cliff, you know, and there was my gun. Well,
Turned out the outlets weren't switched on and the computer died. It needed power. We don't. Sorry for the abrupt ending.